Hi everyone, I'm Marji Alaniz and this is Shining Bright. These are the stories of women who are making the ordinary extraordinary. This episode is brought to you by Nationwide. If you didn't know it, Nationwide is on your side, and we have done many things with them over the years. And let me take you back just a little bit beyond FarmHer. I actually spent the first part of my career working in the insurance industry. And for a little over 11 years, I worked in the corporate side of a large insurance company, and I came to know firsthand about the risks, especially the risks that are inherent on farms and ranches and kind of those unique businesses, right, that are out there. And they're so essential. They're such a large part of our food system. They are our food system, right? You all are. But the reality is the risks are inherent, right? There's a lot of moving parts and moving pieces. And I spent a number of my years while I was in the insurance industry, especially getting to see some of those large losses that would come out of the farms that we insured. And so it was very clear that, managing the risk on farms is really important. And while we don't have a farm, I do have Nationwide as my insurance company. And I can tell you right now, I have what feels like 1,000,001 things to worry about in the middle of the night. And I'm guessing a lot of you are with me, right? I don't know what tomorrow looks like. I don't know what next week looks like. I don't know what the next month looks like, or the next year, or beyond. And it's more clear than ever that I don't get any control in that, and I don't know it. But here's the one piece that I don't wake up worrying about. I don't wake up worrying, is my house going to be okay if a fire were to happen, if a tornado were to come through? I know that I've got that taken care of and that they are on my side, and they have been. I have had, unfortunately, more than one car accident, and my car has been patched up, fixed, and takes me down the road. And so, it's like this peace of mind. If there's one thing I can control in the world, it is managing some of that risk that we have here with a small business, with the trailers that we pull down the road, with our truck and our cars and all the different things that we have, and not to mention the roof over our heads that we've got them on our side. So, managing that risk is important. But beyond that, the other thing I want to tell you about Nationwide that makes me so proud to be able to partner with them on things like this episode of Shining Bright, that is their desire, their drive, their ability to bring good to this world. So they do so many good things. I see it on the inside for their employees. They've got all kinds of resource groups for their associates. We work closely with their Women in Ag resource group, which is hundreds of women. And that group helps kind of procure information, education, ideas for them. And I absolutely love that they do that. But going into what we're going to be talking about today, right? We are in an unprecedented time in our society and our economy. Things are fast changing. A virus changed everything. And in the very worst cases, it's making people sick and unfortunately, killing way too many people. But the economic fallout on the other side is a very real situation. And so that is affecting people's ability to pay for their homes, pay for their cars, put food on the table, and it's very real, and it's a very real crisis for so many. And Nationwide has really stepped up. They have supported Feeding America for many years, but they have stepped up even more in this time to make sure that the Feeding America and the food banks that they support have more resources at their hands, because this is a very real issue. And so this is a topic, as we go into today's episode, that has been near and dear to my heart for a long time, something that I've wanted to talk about and was on our list of things to touch on, because if you talk about farming or ranching, if you talk about any part of the food chain, and if you talk about food, you have to know that all of those pieces are connected, that without farming, there is no food. And without food, there is no ability for us to sustain as human beings, right? So all these pieces are interconnected. And unfortunately, I'm sure you know as well as I do that not everybody gets the opportunity to eat 3 meals every day. And that's just the way that it is, unfortunately. But there are organizations out there. And today we're going to be talking to one of those organizations, the Food Bank of Iowa. And I am right here in central Iowa, and I see the good that it does. It spreads throughout multiple counties here in our state, urban, rural, you name it. The resources are spread around, the food is spread around, and it's available for free. And we're going to be talking with Michelle Book, who is the president and CEO of the Food Bank of Central Iowa. We're going to hear a little bit about her role into leadership and how and why and what she's doing in leading that very, very crucial organization and what they're seeing as far as people needing help, people needing food. I mean, they're seeing increases double or triple of what was needed even just a few weeks ago. And so that tells me, this unemployment, this unprecedented change that's happening in our economy right now, people need food, and it's people who maybe have never had to ask for it before. So whether you find yourself on the front side of saying, I want help, or you're on the other side of saying, I need the help, this is an important episode to listen to, because she talks about what they're doing, the resources, how it's organized, how it gets down to you, and what you can do to find help if you need it. And on top of that, because this is such an important issue to us, FarmHer is launching a campaign to raise money for the Food Bank of Iowa. Now, I know a lot of you are not in Iowa, and so I want you to know that you can go to whatever the food bank is in your state and you can donate money online, just as we're doing with our fundraiser. But if you're here in Iowa and you care to give, every $1 gives 4 meals that the food bank can then give to others, okay? $1 is 4 meals. And when I think about those little kids who are out of school, who maybe relied on school lunch to be the one nutritious meal that they had every day, this matters right now more than ever. Agencies like the food bank getting these meals to the people who need it. And so we are opening up a fundraiser. I would encourage you, even if you can give $1, $2, $1 is 4 meals, $2 is 8 meals, you guys. Even if you can give just a little, we'd love that. And we're going to match all of the donations that are $20 or over up to $1,000. We're going to match a total of $1,000 from FarmHer, because this is something that matters very much to us. So you can find that in the links to this show. You can find that on all of our social media channels. And again, give even a little if you can. And if you can't, pay attention to where you can find help, because the help is out there. So with that, we're going to go to Michelle. So Michelle, welcome to Shining Bright.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Margie.
Yeah. So let's start this off by telling everybody a little bit about who you are. And so do you have a background in agriculture? Where were you raised? Tell me a little bit about, before you were Michelle Bank, president and CEO of the Food Bank.
Well, I am a small town Iowa gal. I come from a long line of farm folk. Greene County area is where I was born. My parents farmed outside of Dana, Iowa, when I was a little person, and raised hogs. My parents and my grandparents always had a large garden, and my grandmother raised chickens. My grandfather and my father were both great hunters and great fishermen. So as a child, although we didn't have a lot, we were probably lower middle class family at the time. We never went hungry because we knew how to grow things, and we butchered our own hogs, butchered our own deer, and my parents were able to take care of a family of 6 with none of us being hungry.
Yeah, it's amazing what that rural mindset, that farming mindset, that my mom grew up in a farm family as well. And I myself grew up in the country. I didn't grow up on a farm. It was a farm, but different, right? My parents weren't, that wasn't how they made their income. And so I always am just amazed at the resourcefulness, right, of people who are able to grow their own food and feed a family that way. It's awesome, and people still do it today, and so cool. So, okay, so you were raised in agriculture, and tell me a little bit about your path since then. Like, what does your leadership path look like? Because you have really risen through the ranks, and you hold a very prominent position that is a really important position now. And so I'd love to hear a little bit about what that path looked like for you.
Well, my very first job was walking beans for $1 an hour. And who would have thought that some 50 years later, I'd be running the Food Bank of Iowa. I had a high school guidance counselor that told me I needed to go to college, and he told me I was going to go to Iowa State, and he told me I was going to be an accountant. And so that's what I did. Not knowing much more than that. None of my family had ever gone to university before. And I was scared. So I went to Iowa State University, and I spent 83. When jobs were tough, I was very, very fortunate that I had several job offers in the international accounting arena. I went to work for Ernst & Winnie back when it was Ernst & Winnie, and there was a Big 8. Now I think it's Final Four and a couple of regional. And from that, some time spent farming and raising hogs in Southwest Iowa. Eventually came back to Des Moines. And prior to coming to the Food Bank of Iowa, I spent about 10 years at John Deere Finance in Johnston, Iowa, and then another 6 years with DuPont Pioneer, also in Johnston. So I bring with me into this position about 30 years of corporate experience. I like to say that Food Bank of Iowa is a distribution business with a health and human services personality.
Mm-hmm. And so your career has really woven its way through agriculture. I always think outside looking in, people probably think that a career in agriculture looks one way, but obviously, as an accountant, working your way through the leadership and different areas of this industry, I'm sure that you've brought a lot, because, we talk about this a lot, that, everybody eats, and there are these different parts and pieces of the food chain, and they all matter so much. And many of them aren't really visible, right, to those of us who have the ability to eat 3 meals every day. When it lands on our plate, you don't always see all those parts and pieces, and they're all very important. So that's very cool. Okay, so let's jump into the food bank, because this is something that I've wanted to talk about for a while. This was on my radar to talk with you about, and now it's even more relevant. It's even more timely, I think, than I can ever remember it being in my almost 40 years that I'm knocking on the door there. And so tell me a little bit about the mission of the Food Bank of Iowa, and then let's talk about the very real situation that we're in right now.
Well, to set the frame, I would say Food Bank of Iowa, for listeners that aren't familiar with what a food bank does, we are one of 200 Feeding America food banks. Every county across the United States is served by a Feeding America food bank. So Food Bank of Iowa serves 55 counties in Iowa, all the way up to Minnesota, down to Missouri, over to Illinois, including Des Moines, Fort Dodge, Ottumwa, some of those larger cities. Our mission, the mission of a food bank, is to find as much free and reduced cost food as possible, keep it safe, and get it back out to our smaller frontline partner agencies as quickly as possible. So across our 30,000 square miles, we work with 625 partner agencies. It might be it's your small town food pantry that might be hosted at your community action program, or it might be hosted at your local church. More and more, we have pantries within schools. We provide food to any 501c3 whose mission it is to provide a basic service such as food and nutrition to the clients they serve. So we also serve and provide food for homeless shelters, halfway houses, daycares, adult daycares, after school programs, boys and girls programs. Before COVID, we had to find, keep safe, and we distributed about 1.5 million pounds of food every month across our network. Now with COVID-19, the massive unemployment that we have seen, we are forecasting that we are doubling and tripling our distribution in the months to come. And we don't think it's...
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Were you going to say you don't think it's going to end soon?
How did you know?
Well,
Marji,
that's my biggest fear.
Well, COVID-19 is here. It's in our environment. It's going to be here in 2 weeks and 2 months until we have a good immunization process. It's going to be here, which could be a year or two. I don't mean to scare people, but also the ramifications of this massive unemployment that we're seeing, which far outpaces the Great Depression that my great grandparents lived through. The ripple effects of this, I think, will be here for quite a while. We're a wealthier nation than we were at the time of the Great Depression, but we also have such huge disparity between the haves and the have-nots. It was very apparent before COVID-19, and it's glaringly apparent today.
Yeah. It really is, and I know that there are so many of us out there that if we're in the lucky position to be able to have what we need, right, even if it's for today, not knowing what the next month might bring, it's so worrisome to me to think about the people who before this did not have what they needed, and how this ripples through that. And so thank you for all of the things that you do. So just to make sure that I can understand, and so our listeners can understand a little bit more, for example, we live in a suburb of Des Moines. You guys are located in Des Moines with the food bank. And so my kids go to school in a school district in the town of Grimes, and there's a Grimes pantry that serves the community there. So the distribution that you guys do filters its way down to places just like the Grimes pantry. Is that correct?
That's correct. We keep a real-time inventory, and our agencies come in, they see our inventory and order what they need. And we pick and pull those orders from a 55,000 square foot distribution center that's just on the other side of this wall, and get that order ready, and we put it on a truck and we deliver it to our partner agency. It's the orders that have been coming in the last couple of weeks. We have agencies ordering 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, one agency 20 times the order that they normally would have placed. So we're doing our best to get as much food to everyone as equitably and as quickly as possible. But today we're not able to fill the need. We have 2 additional trucks coming in the next 2 to 4 weeks. And we'll add on additional routes when those trucks arrive. We're just doing our best. Everybody is 110% here at Food Bank of Iowa, and our trucks are on the road all the time right now.
Yeah, I can't even fathom what that must feel like, especially when your employees, and I assume that you are a very volunteer-driven organization as well. Everybody's worried about being at work. I mean, you have employees just like anybody else whose kids are probably not in school, and how that ripples down through your organization. Can you tell me a little bit about how your volunteers and your employees are rising to this new level of need that's out there, that's going to be the new normal, as you said, for a while?
I've been working for the last 4 years since I arrived at Food Bank of Iowa to build a strong, cohesive, collaborative team. And I've got to tell you, this team has never been better. We are perfectly positioned to weather this storm, to address the need and meet the need of food insecure Iowans. I couldn't be happier. I love these people. They work hard, and they're all here because they have a big passion for what they do. Are they scared? Yes. Am I scared? You bet. we're all scared. We hear a lot from media every day about the dangers of COVID. What are we doing to address it? Well, we're social distancing here in the office. We are cleaning. Someday when they cut me open, they're going to find a lot of Lysol in my vein. And a little bit behind, ode to Lysol, I feel these days. So we're doing a lot of disinfectant cleaning, more than we ever have. We've locked the office doors. So we're asking for people not to visit us at this point in time. So it's just Food Bank of Iowa folks in the office. If people want to bring a food donation, we ask them to put it in a bin on the side of our building where there won't be any contact. Initially with volunteers, that first week, the wheels fell off on Friday the 13th of March.
Yeah.
And then that next week, we saw a mass exodus of volunteers. Most of our volunteers were corporate teams. Corporations were sending teams here for team building. And it's a great opportunity to do that. People have fun. They get a little exercise. They feel like they're giving back. But it wasn't safe for corporations to mandate their employees be in that kind of environment. So the first week or so, our volunteers just evaporated.
Yeah.
But I was on Facebook and I issued a call, and people came. So we have ample volunteers today. People are signing up on our website, foodbankiowa.org. And we're doing our utmost to keep our volunteer coordinators safe and keep our volunteers safe. So we ask both our employees and our volunteers, please don't come to Food Bank of Iowa. If you have a cough, if you have a fever, you have to be fever-free for 3 days. Wash your hands when you come in, sanitize. Our volunteers are asked to wear masks. They wear gloves. If they compromise the integrity of the gloves, we start all over again. Wash your hands, put on a pair of gloves. We have red tape marks on the floor, keeping people 6 foot apart. So we're doing our absolute best. The state of Iowa has deemed Food Bank of Iowa and our partner agencies essential services. So we can't stay home. We can't do our work from home. Much like Mercy or Unity Point employees, we have to be here every day. Of course, we're not dealing directly with COVID-19. So I think we're in a very safe, essential service environment, but we think about it every day.
Yeah, and I would say that the work that you're doing, from my opinion, is one of the most essential for all of the people who are so massively affected by this that aren't in the hospital. Here in Iowa, we're lucky to have one of the lowest rates of COVID, across the nation, and at this point. And so for all of us who are, again, like we're here and we're kind of like, what do we do? I look at what you do as just so very important. And I see the calls from our local food pantry that, that they need more coming in. And as you said, you guys are doing everything that you can to increase that. Can you describe to me a little bit about what your distribution center looks like right now? Like what's going on behind that wall?
Well, our distribution center is a beehive of activity right now. Our freezers are full. We've really ramped up for this. We have truckloads of food arriving every day that we're offloading and getting into our inventory. And as fast as we get it in, it's going out the door again. We did add some additional staff in the distribution center to help us pick and pull orders. As I said, when we have 2 trucks coming in the next 2 to 4 weeks, we planned on retiring 2 trucks. But we're going to keep all of them on the road right now and get additional drivers and trucks out there. This distribution center is impeccable. We have to meet very stringent food safety guidelines like Hy-Vee would or a restaurant would. So I'm very proud of our distribution center team. It is spotless. They're keeping it clean. They're getting the food in, they're getting the food out, and everybody's attitude is just really super positive. I've had several employees say, thank you. I'm so grateful that I can come here every day and I'm part of the solution. I've had employees say, if I had to stay home, I'd go crazy.
Yeah.
So for people that need to stay busy and have a purpose, it's good for this team of people, and everybody's pitching in to help.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys serve, I think you said 55 counties, up and down Iowa and over to the east. Many of the communities that you guys serve are rural communities. And are you seeing a difference there? Maybe not right now, between urban needs and rural needs. Are you seeing anything different in those rural communities?
Well, even though COVID-19 hasn't hit us as hard as New York City or Seattle, the disease itself has not hit as hard, but the other pandemic of unemployment has hit us just as hard as it has any other part of the country.
Yeah.
So in rural Iowa communities, it's the same. I'm watching the map every day to see where cases of COVID are popping up. I just wrapped up the day before, on March 12th, I wrapped up a 55 county tour, going out to visit every one of our counties and talking to our partners across our geography. So I'm now looking to see how are they doing, what's happening in their county. We have regional partnership coordinators that are speaking with all of our partners on a regular basis. How are you doing? What changes are you seeing? Can we help you do more? How do we help you do more? What we're finding in rural areas is that a lot of our partners were, those agencies were organized and run by senior citizens. And with the threat of COVID being even more so for people that are 60 and older, or folks that have compromised immune systems, we're finding that many of our partners are losing volunteers. Also, to protect our partner agencies, we've encouraged them, and I think everybody has gone to this method, where we were very proud before COVID-19 that a client could walk into a food pantry and shop as if they were in the grocery store, selecting, the can of peas or the peaches that they know that their family would really like to have. Today, our pantries are putting things in boxes, selecting items for the families, and then either leaving the box, in the front or putting the box in the car. They're doing mobile box drive-through distributions. So that shopping has gone away temporarily. We're still serving people, but our agencies are safer that way. Our agency partners are able to maintain some distance, and the people receiving the food are kept safer. Our agency volunteers are kept safer. And the mobile box distribution is easier to do with fewer volunteers, which is what a lot of our agencies are seeing.
Yeah.
Our schools we work with about 100 schools across our geography. And in the last 4 years, we implemented 100 school pantries, where in many communities, the school is still the center of the universe. And having a pantry in the school is a really good way to serve the entire family, not just the children. And we're seeing across our geography that most of these schools are staying open with their school pantry. They're planning to do that through the summer. Most of our schools are still distributing the backpacks every Friday to those kids that are enrolled in the backpack program. And it's good for the teacher because emotionally, think of what our teachers are going through right now, being separated from their classrooms and from their students, but also good for the student and the family to know that the teacher and the school still care about them.
Yeah.
So the backpack program is alive and well, even though kids aren't in the classroom. And I'm so grateful to those schools that are still supporting their families and their communities with their school pantry and their backpacks.
And the backpack program, does that send food home over the weekend for the kids? I'm not super familiar with it. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
So the backpack program started in the 1980s when a elementary school teacher, realized that the kids are coming to school on Monday. They're disruptive. They lack the ability to pay attention. And some of them, there was just high absenteeism. And she realized the kids were hungry.
Yeah.
So she started bringing food into the classroom on Mondays, and these kids were ravenous. They'd been home over the weekend without the meals that they were normally getting at school and were hungry when they came back. So the backpack program is a trademark program through Feeding America. And as a Feeding America food bank, we offer the backpack program, and it's about 14 kid-friendly, fully labeled food items that would go in a plastic sack. The school nurse or counselor or what other caring administrator there is would tuck it into the elementary school child's backpack on Friday. Yeah. And they put their backpack on. Nobody knew what was in the backpack, and they'd get on the bus or they'd walk home, and they had some things to eat over the weekend. It's great for serving elementary school children. But I know wherever there's an elementary school child, a third grader that's hungry, there's a guardian and there's probably siblings. So we now have school pantries in elementary, middle, and high schools, and they really serve the community very well. And these people, the school principals that support school pantries and the staff people that man these pantries, they're amazing. If you want to know what's going on in your community, ask a school teacher. Yeah. They know what's going on in the community.
Yes, they do.
And if we don't treasure and revere our schools after this, that will be the greatest travesty of all. The things that our schools do for our kids, it should be very apparent to everybody right now, the role that a school plays in the life of our families and our children.
Yeah. And my family has what we need, and I can see that full well, because as I told you, we're recording this from our home studio, and I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old that are, here and it's very apparent that how much a teacher gives to kids all day long, every day, whether the kids have external needs outside of the school or not. So yes, praise the teachers.
Love your teacher. Part of the stress on the system right now, it's huge unemployment numbers, astronomical numbers we never could have imagined. Who would have thought this would happen in the United States of America? But also all these kids home from school that usually got 2, sometimes 3 meals a day. College kids home from school, they have no place else to go. So you think about all the stress on a household food bill, and no wonder people are crying out for help.
Yeah. And I know that you guys are feeding kids, not the backpack program aside, right now, like kids who were normally very reliant on everyday meals, right? You guys are, at least here in this area, I'm not sure how far that program spreads, providing meals like lunch for kids, right? Like people can go pick up meals right now.
Yeah, there are 2 summer food lunch programs running. This is a USDA program. The USDA reimburses the expenses for providing summer food service program lunches. And it's been a USDA program for a number of years. The USDA allowed us to start those programs earlier. Good. So Des Moines Public Schools are distributing grab-and-go lunch and dinner in middle school parking lots. And then also Central Shelter is running several spring meal distributions, and you can find, the information is out there on the internet. Okay. But yeah, here in Des Moines, but also we've been working with our schools across rural counties, and they are also starting their summer food service program early, and we'll run that through the summertime.
So, Michelle, what would you say is the best way if somebody's listening to this and they want to be able to help? We're opening a fundraiser through FarmHer, and we, people can donate through that. But if people are sitting out there and going, how do I help? How do I help? What do I do? What would you tell somebody right now, of whether it's in our community right here in central Iowa, whether they're, in a different state, maybe on the East Coast or the West Coast or some tiny town up in Montana, what can they do to help?
Share this podcast with others so people understand the depth and the breadth of the problem. Help build awareness. I think that's the number one thing people can do. All of you, I don't care what county, 3,100 47 counties across the United States, every one of you have a Feeding America food bank that's supporting your county. In your county, you have a food pantry or you have a feeding site. So I would encourage you to find ways where you can donate, if you have $1 or if you have an hour, to donate to your local pantry or your local Feeding America food bank, which procures the food for your pantry. I would encourage you to do that. We are seeing people really want to donate and help out. And we see a lot of food coming to the Food Bank of Iowa, people donating food to their local food banks right now or their food pantry. It's difficult to process that right now. And typically I would say, oh gosh, we love it, bring it on, because we love the variety. But right now, really, it's best to donate $1. With the purchasing power we have at Food Bank of Iowa via our Feeding America partnerships, $1 can produce 4 meals for people in need. For example, when you go to the grocery store and buy a can of Del Monte green beans, it costs 99 cents for you to purchase that can. We just bought a truckload of Del Monte green beans, and we can buy 3 cans for what you buy 1 can for at the grocery store. So we really can stretch $1. And I know people still need volunteers. We have to be safe. So please, out there, stay safe. But we do need volunteers and we do need funds to meet this ever-expanding need. We are getting a lot of phone calls from egg producers. All that food that was destined for institutional and restaurant production, eggs and dairy and meat.
Yeah.
Feeding America is working with the producers. We're working with our producers here in the state of Iowa. How do we convert, 5-gallon bladders of liquid egg into cartons for our families? How do we take a side of beef and produce 2-pound packages of ground beef for our families? So
Yeah.
it's a challenging problem. It's a very interesting problem. Converting this restaurant institutional use production into something we can use on a family level is a challenge. Who would have thought that this would be a problem we'd be forced to solve? But there are a lot of people working on it. Farmers, agricultural producers, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
We are so grateful for you. It matters.
Yeah. Food starts there. It starts with them. Like all of what you do starts with all of the farmers out there and ranchers, and it's so very important. I know, and so yes.
I also encourage people. I grew up a long line of farm folk, but also garden folk. And Victory Gardens, of course, started with World War I. And through World War II. And my grandparents and my parents were avid gardeners, not because it was fun or as an act of leisure. They did it because they needed to feed people. I swear my parents procreated 4 times just to get cheap labor.
Yeah.
Picking green beans was not my favorite deal, and I was a whiny kid, and I now am so ashamed of myself. But if you have the ability to grow your own food, do it. If you can teach somebody else how to grow their own food, do it. You're farmers and ranchers, and nobody knows the land better than you. How can you take your knowledge and pass it on and start in your community an active garden mentality? Get people out there, get them excited. You can spread 6 foot apart and plant greens and plant onions and peppers and carrots and tomatoes and feed yourselves.
Yeah, because
I really hope people will do that.
This is here to stay for a while, as you said. So what a great time to do that. And regardless of how stressed or how pressured we all are, giving back and doing something and helping somebody else, I feel like is always like an uplifting thing, right? No matter what else is going on out in the world, that helps me. So yes, that's a great idea.
In your communities, if you can in your communities, start some sort of a seed co-op. there's cost to seed and the tools that it takes to garden. If you haven't grown up with it, you don't know how to do these things. But start a seed co-op in your community as well, and lend tools out to people to help them get started. It's whatever barriers there are to gardening in your community, if you can find a way to reduce those barriers, I think that's a huge gift, a really huge gift.
Okay, Michelle, one last question for you, because we've talked a lot about how we can help, you know, if we're in a position to help somebody else here. But what about those people who are facing a need, maybe for the first time? You know, people who are saying, I can't feed my family, I can't feed my kids because my life has changed so drastically through this. What would you tell them in helping them feel okay about reaching out for help if they need it?
I'm going to let Gladys tell them. I met Gladys a couple of years ago at a mobile pantry at a church in Perry. And the Food Bank of Iowa truck was backed up and we were handing out boxes of food. And I walked down the line and meeting people. Why are you here? Are you getting what you need? How can we help you? And I came upon Gladys, all 4'11" of her. She's the same age as my father, Marvin Book, who lives in Jefferson right now. And I visited with Gladys for some period of time. And her husband was gone, but her house was paid for. She'd lost her savings in some sort of a scam, but she was very much with it. And as we chatted, she said, honey, you just get in line with me. You can get in line with me. I said, Gladys, I'm not here to get food. I'm here to give food. I'm here to help you. And she looked at me. In those days, social distancing wasn't a thing, but she pulled my face close to her and she said, honey, it's okay to ask for help. At some point in your life, everyone has to ask for a little help. So anybody out there that needs help, Gladys invites you to jump in line. This is the time to do it. If not for yourself, for your family. We're all in this together. This can't be seen as an individual failure. This is a failure of our system, a failure of public health, and a failure of our economic policies. It's not a failure of you. If you need help, call your local food pantry. Most of ours are delivering to people that are shut in, or they'll put a box together for you to pick up. But make the call and make it today. That's why we exist. We exist to help you.
Yep. And if you aren't sure who to call, you can check out the Food Bank of Iowa's website. I'm sure that they can work their way to what the resource is in their county through you. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. We have every one of our partners are on our website. You put in the zip code and it will tell you these are the partners near you and this is their phone number. But across the United States, if you're listening to this in Wyoming or you're listening to this in Connecticut, there is a local food bank which supports your county and supports the pantry in your county. Help is just around the corner.
Michelle, thank you. You are such a knowledgeable and calm and necessary force in this industry right now. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Margie. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to all of the women whose lives you touch on a regular basis. And to all these women, be strong. And I know you are, because I know what a farm and a rancher woman, I know how you work and I know how you think. I know these are tough times. We're going to get through it.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Margie. Be well.
You too. Wow, right? The Food Bank of Iowa, food banks across the country are being hit hard, and we are so lucky to have a leader like Michelle. I'm going to call her a true FarmHer, right? She's been on the farming side. She grew up in agriculture. She's raised hogs, and now she's worked her way through leadership positions at Pioneer and John Deere, and now she's leading the food bank, and she's leading the charge in a time where they are needing more food than ever. A few numbers that were pandemic, right? According to the USDA, 11.1% of households were food insecure at some time, and this is in 2018. 11.1% of households. That's an estimated 1 in 9 Americans who are food insecure. And that equated to over 37 million people, okay? And 11 million of those are kids. And so if you were thinking about one thing that you could do that would make a big difference, it's giving money, it's giving time to organizations that make sure that people can eat, especially in times like this, because this is no fault of yours, this is no fault of mine. This is no fault of all of the people who are flooding to those food banks to get food. This is not their fault. This is a blip, right? I hope it's a blip. But this is one of those unforeseen things that happens, and regardless of how badly I don't want it to be here, it is. And so, making sure that those people who are feeding all of the people who are so heavily affected by this, urban and rural, because again, these food banks do operate in rural counties. She said there is one food bank in every county across this country. And it might not be right next door. You might have to drive a little ways, or you might have to find somebody to help you get there. But there is food that can be available. So it's so important. So once again, if you are inclined to give, I would love if you would head on over to our website, FarmHer.com. Right up there on the top, you can click on the Everybody Eats tab, and there is a link right there to donate to the fundraiser. Even if you can give $1 or $2, that is all that matters, you guys, because again, $1 is 4 meals for somebody. It's 4 meals for someone who needs it. And I can't think of a better way to give my time right now, or my dollars right now, and to try to make an impact in somebody's life. So again, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I hope you've learned that you can make a difference too, big or little. A difference is a difference in somebody's life. And if you need the help, don't hesitate to go to your food bank's website and look and see where you can get that help. Because sometimes, as Michelle said, and as the lady that she met at that food bank line a number of years ago said, sometimes we all need help at some point in our life. We all do, and that's just it. So with that, thank you for sticking with us here on this episode of Shining Bright.